Hey, good morning. Welcome back to Conservative Cat. Man, we have such an amazing show planned for you this morning. It's a Monday morning, 6:06 a.m. Central Time. Yes, we have a show here every day, daily, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. And we cover today's news, today's headlines, and we also give you a little bit of a biblical perspective with those headlines. I'm Conservative Cat, and today the truth is going to be louder than a thunderstorm here in the Midwest because we are covering Donald Trump boosting the weather service, and the mainstream media, the lamestream media, will not talk about this. He's actually boosting the weather service, giving the National Weather Service a budget increase in his 2026 proposed plan. And the Democrats are panicking. They're saying, Donald Trump, he's defunding the National Weather Service, which is a just outright lie. We're going to be talking about the National Weather Service and what is actually facing a budget cut, which would be NOAA, which is the parent agency and oversees National Weather Service. There's just a lot of bureaucratic bloat, so we're going to get into it. We're also going to talk about how State Farm is gouging you. Do you live in Illinois? Well, your home insurance rates are going to go up. Pritzker, let no good crisis go to waste. Create the crisis, right? And then don't let the crisis go to waste and implement socialized insurance. They do this all the time, the Dems. So we're going to be talking about that. Plus, California got caught lying about an ICE raid. So this is really interesting. ICE raided this field, and the mainstream media has been saying that it's a strawberry field. Okay. It's not a strawberry field. It is a marijuana field. They are growing marijuana cannabis in this field, and there were children who were running from ICE agents after ICE agents it looked like tear gas. It looks like it was a raid. And the children were running from the ICE agents. So why the hell are there children in a cannabis field, working at a cannabis field, what looks like a cannabis field, and what looks like child labor at a cannabis? You got to be 21 to work in cannabis. Okay. You can't have kids. These are teenagers, and it appears that they're working in this cannabis field. So we're going to get into it because it's not freaking strawberries. Okay. Let's get into the National Weather Service first. Folks, it looks like weather's not the only thing under pressure right now. It turns out that's the National Weather Service. Okay. So facing a lot of pressure, the National Weather Service. Yes, these are the same people who tell you to take cover for a tornado, cancel your kid's baseball game because of a thunderstorm rolling in. They're stretched thin, and they are short-staffed, and they're drowning in bureaucratic mismanagement. That's the National Weather Service, and we're talking about that today. And naturally, with most crises these days, people blame Donald Trump. You can count on the Democrats and the left and the media. I repeat myself, those are all the same institutions, the Democrats and the media, same types of people. You can bet that they're going to scream from the rooftops, Trump did it, Trump did it, Trump did it. This is years of bureaucratic mismanagement, and Donald Trump is going to fix it with his proposed budget plan. No, I'm not happy with Donald Trump right now. I'm sure you want me to talk about the Epstein files. I did talk about it last week. I'll get to Donald Trump's Truth Social here in just a little bit. Like I said, my position on it is that Donald Trump probably isn't releasing the Epstein files because it's really that bad. Could lead to global economic collapse. I still don't think that he is on the Epstein files. It's odd that he is completely dismissing the Epstein files, like completely, and like dismissing it as a Democrat hoax. Like he compared it in this Truth Social post to the Steele dossier, to the Russian hoax, the Russia collusion hoax. I don't know. He really wants people to look the other way on this thing. And I want the client list. I'm not Donald Trump. I'm not the president of the United States. I don't know who's on it, obviously, but clearly he wants it to go away. And I think that he would want it to go away for one reason and one reason alone, because it would be global economic collapse, and his presidency and his legacy would be stained if he releases it, because he would be overseeing a world, like global economic collapse. And he wants, obviously, America to be great again. And he's all about the economy. Donald Trump is an economy type president. He's not really into the social issues. But look, I don't care if you're a pedophile, you shouldn't get a pass. And I don't care if you're the CEO of this bank or that bank, you need to be held accountable. Anyway, sorry, I was talking about Donald Trump. You can count on the left blaming Donald Trump for literally everything these days. If there's a crisis that happens, they're going to scream, it's Donald Trump's fault. And they're going to blame it all on Donald Trump. And they ignore the massive storm clouds here that is federal waste and inefficiency. And I don't think I have to tell you that there's inefficiency and waste in your government. Have you ever gone to the DMV? Okay. Have you ever tried to get a marriage certificate or license? Have you ever tried to interact with the government, get your passport? It is always the worst. And industries that are very heavily subsidized by the government are always the worst to interact with. Think about it. Your insurance companies. Nobody wants to call their insurance agent. Nobody wants to go and shop for a car. Nobody wants to go and get on an airplane. Nobody wants to interact with these industries because they're highly subsidized. And once government gets their nose in, then it just starts to become really inefficient. So we're going to talk about how Donald Trump is going to fix this. Don't worry, I'm unpacking it all. And by the end of today's show, you're going to understand how bloated the government is, the federal weather bureaucracy is, and how this is just another front in the war against common sense. This whole oh, you're defunding NOAA. How could you? So let's break this down. The National Weather Service is an agency under NOAA. This is the backbone, I would say, of American forecasting, the National Weather Service, and it has been for decades. Okay. Now they're facing staff shortages and early retirements. There's this federal hiring freeze and everything's under serious strain. See, they don't go after your DEI directors or your climate equity, gender equity directors in NOAA. The first thing to go and the first thing to feel the squeeze when there's threats of budget cuts is the backbone, okay, the National Weather Service, which is actually what we're supposed to have. There's a lot in NOAA that could be cut. There's a lot there. I'll get to specifics here in just a second, but they're going after and it's the same thing with the school districts. Okay, if they are facing a budget deficit, or if they're wanting a tax increase, they'll say, oh well, the first thing that's going to go are the kids' extracurriculars, or teachers are going to go, and we're going to have bigger class sizes with less teachers. And yeah, that's the first thing they say is going to go. They never talk about the DEI directors. They never talk about the administrative bloat in these school districts. The first thing on the chopping block is always the kids and the teachers. It's never these administrators. Okay, so same thing goes for NOAA. The people who are actually on the ground doing the work, the National Weather Service people at these forecasting offices, they are on the chopping block and they're freaking out, and they're facing a federal hiring freeze because they're possibly facing a cut to NOAA, which is the parent agency. Think of it as the parent agency. So Illinois Congressman Eric Swanson, Democrat, former meteorologist, posts pictures of himself with PB&J sandwiches on a regular basis. I counted on my hand within the last couple of years, 5 times he's posted himself with a sandwich. We really need somebody serious in that. It's the Illinois Congressional, I think it's 17, that district. We need somebody serious. We need somebody who is serious about geopolitics, is serious about national security, serious about getting inflation under control, the economy. This guy is very unserious. He's a weatherman. He's a blue state weatherman. Okay. And he turned into a politician. So now normally I'd say this is political hyperbole, exaggeration, what Eric Swanson does here. But I'm actually going to agree with Eric Swanson. Weather matters. It's one of the few areas that I believe that there should be some sort of federal investment. And if you make a federal investment, there can be a difference made. There's very few areas in the government where I think that if you invest in it, it's going to go somewhere. Okay. Weather is one of those things where I think if you make the investment, there's good things that could happen. But here's the kicker. President Donald Trump's 2026 budget, and this is what the lame stream won't tell you, folks, this budget, the 2026 budget, actually increases the National Weather Service's funding by 6.7%. Yes, increases the National Weather Service. Now, the National Weather Service is boots on the ground. These are the people in your forecasting offices who, and I look at the National Weather Service daily, right, on Twitter. And I follow them, and I know a lot of you do, and you check the weather and you rely on it, for your commute and everything. So the National Weather Service actually getting a 6.7% increase. Okay. So they are simultaneously streamlining. They're giving an increase to the National Weather Service, but there's a cut happening to NOAA, the parent agency. Okay. But how does the media report this? And take note, they're saying that Trump is cutting, the weather balloons, and he's cutting them with the scissors, and he's throwing radar towers into the ocean. And how dare he? He doesn't even care about the weather. He doesn't care about the reporting of the weather. And this is why the flooding happened, which is not true. National Weather Service issued all the warnings that they possibly could have. In some cases, flooding, flash flooding like that is extreme. And no matter how many warnings you issue, there are going to be casualties. That's just the reality of the life we live. We live in a very imperfect world. And Sorensen, he got out there, of course, on NBC, and he started, saying, we got to get Donald Trump to understand the value of accurate weather models. This is what Eric Sorensen did on NBC. It's like, newsflash there, Eric. Donald Trump does understand. He does understand, because look at the 6.7% increase to the National Weather Service. That's why NWS is getting a bump in his budget proposal, which is the 2026 plan. But that's not flashy enough for the left. They want the bureaucracy. I want to share this with you. This was a Senate hearing. Neil Jacobs is Donald Trump's pick to head up NOAA. And he told Congress last week that he supports the Trump administration's cuts to NOAA, to the agency. So it's an outright lie. You'll hear CBS News, you'll hear NBC talking about how he's going to cut the National Weather Service, which is not true. He's cutting NOAA. And if NOAA decides to withhold, actually the budget proposals keeps the 6.7% increase. If NOAA, and they're funded through NOAA, if NOAA decides that the National Weather Service is on the chopping block, that's on them. Okay, that's not on Donald Trump, because his plan actually says 6.7% increase. So let's actually take a listen to this. It's a Senate hearing. Neil Jacobs was being questioned by Ed Markey. Ed Markey is a Democrat, Massachusetts, I believe. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
Cut NOAA's budget by 27%. No climate, weather, Sea Grant, Ocean Labs, many other programs exempted. Dr. Jacobs, yes or no, do you support these cuts?
Yes, I support the president's budget.
Dr. Jacobs, do these cuts improve the weather readiness of our country?
The cuts I believe you're referring to, a lot of that work is being transitioned in from the research side to the operations side. So the National Weather Service, the National Ocean Service, their mission essential functions will continue.
I have a disagreement with you. A 27% cut is going to have an impact, because there's a definite ripple effect that occurs when that kind of funding is slashed, because of weather readiness without funding is an hallucination. You can't cut something by 27%, even as the storms are enhanced as each year goes by, without having that additional capacity. So I do not agree with you on that issue.
She calls America.
Dr. Jacobs.
So there's that one. Okay, there's that clip. Absolutely incredible. You've got this guy saying, oh, that's a hallucination. Okay, no. You can cut funding and still have weather readiness and have the National Weather Service do its job if you cut funding. Okay. For example, if you are running a household, right, and let's say you and your husband or you and your wife are running a household and one of you loses your job, okay, and you got a couple of kids you got to feed them, right, and clothe them. If one of you loses your job, you know, are you not going to feed your children? Are you not going to perform the basic duties of your household? No, of course not. You're going to reprioritize your funding, and that's what's going to happen here. Is that's not a hallucination to suggest that weather readiness and preparedness and alerts and the basic functions of the National Weather Service won't happen if there's a cut. Okay, that is so totally stupid. It's an attack on your common. It's really insulting to your intelligence because you deal with it every day, right? Your husband or wife, one of you loses your income, there's a cut. You're going to prioritize your spending, sure. Doesn't mean that the basic operations are going to be neglected. Okay, feeding yourself and feeding your children, you're going to figure it out, right? And you're just going to have to prioritize the spending, get rid of the car, right? Or cancel your subscriptions, things like that. Okay, so what Sorensen and the left, what they really want is to pump billions and billions of dollars into social science studies, whatever the hell that means. He actually was quoted saying this on NBC, Eric Sorensen. He goes, we need to fund social sciences. I don't know what the hell that means. And we need to better communicate meteorology. So translation, I'm going to break this political speech down, or this politician speak down for you. What he's actually saying there is more diversity consultants, equity officers to interpret the storm warnings through the lens of gender identity or climate equity or whatever. Okay. So they want more bureaucracy. They want more funding for the climate equity and the gender equity. And let's be honest, they're addicted to fear. Okay. So the more disasters they can forecast, the more they can control, and the more they can keep you in fear. Okay, so the National Weather Service is very, very important, but this whole climate equity, global warming, studying the effects of global warming, all of that nonsense, that is not your basic boots on the ground operations where we're releasing, hey, here's what's happening, because we can't control the damn weather. Okay, no matter how much money you throw at this thing, you can't control the skies, you can't control the wind. And that brings me to my biblical segment here. And, you think I'm exaggerating. No, the federal government actually held workshops, okay, on how climate communication affects gay people and gay communities and LGBTQ communities and marginalized communities. Okay, that's what NOAA is using their money for right now. How do we effectively communicate the climate and climate change to marginalized communities? Okay. Meanwhile, your radar station. So these forecasting offices, we have two in Illinois. You have one in Lincoln, where I'm from. Actually, it's really cool. We drive by the weather balloon all the time. I know a lot of people who work at the forecasting offices, and they're really important people. I mean, they're doing the actual work at 2 a.m. Okay, and they're looking at the data. They're issuing the alerts. Okay, that's the important work. Not this, how do we effectively communicate climate change to these gay communities? I mean, this is America 2025, and Donald Trump says absolutely not. We're going to propose an increase for the National Weather Service, which is this boots on the ground operation that goes on in these forecasting offices. I'll get to the numbers here in just a second, because you're going to be shocked by just how little the National Weather Service is funded in the grand scheme of things, which is why Donald Trump proposed, probably in the 2026 budget proposal plan, 6.7% increase. So now let's look at this through a biblical lens, because I love to do this, because scripture talks about everything. If you want to know, what's going on in the world today, just open up your dang Bible and read it. It's the basic instructions before leaving Earth. So in Scripture, weather is a tool historically as of God's judgment, okay, and provision. So rain fell after years of a drought, and storms rose as warnings, like when Jonah boarded the wrong boat. Weather isn't just data, it's divine, and which is why I say you can't change it. It is a divine tool, I believe, that of our God, and we can't control the skies. Okay, so a lot of what the NOAA bureaucracy is all about, they want to control the skies. They want to, and it's anti-biblical, it's anti-Christian. I've told you a lot of times their positions, their ideology, their positions in politics, it's just anti-Christian. So the Bible, it's very clear that the weather is God's. It is God's. It is His divine tool, and we are not to control the skies, but we are to humbly understand them and prepare. Okay, and that's what the National Weather Service does. So the Christian view is, hey, we should be funding our National Weather Service. We should humbly understand the skies and prepare when weather strikes. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with that, but you can't control the dang things. You can't control, climate change. How do we stop climate change, and how do we effectively communicate that to the green or to the gay communities and to the marginalized communities? Like, that's just complete BS. Okay, so the modern state doesn't see weather as a tool of divine warning. They see it as a policy weapon. Okay, so your politicians, like Eric Swanson, they want to push for more funding. They want to push fear. They want to push things like global climate change, global warming, and they want to push a policy weapon. Okay, so this, of course, results in global climate treaties that tie the hands of our farmers, our ranchers, our families. And, they try to control your gas stove. They want to ban that. They want to tell you what type of car to drive. They use weather, they don't see it as a divine tool of our God, but rather they use it as a policy weapon to get things like tax credits for electric vehicles snuck into the Inflation Reduction Act. Joe Biden did that. And they use it to stoke fear, and they'll frame every heat wave as evidence that we need more money, or that they need more money, more of your taxes. And Proverbs 30, verse 4 says this: who has gathered the wind in his fists? So this is why I say weather is a divine tool of God. Okay, and for us to try to control it, for us to try to tax people and exploit people and try to change the direction of the wind using tax money, okay, this is anti-biblical. Proverbs 30, verse 4 says that who has gathered the wind in his fist? It's not Joe Biden. It's not Neil Jacobs, who is the Donald Trump Noah pick, okay? It's not Eric Swanson. Only God. Only God controls the wind in his fists. So our government has built a weather bureaucracy that's more about pushing politics rather than preparing citizens. And we're wasting money. We're wasting money, and we're mocking the created order of things. Really, when we try to control the weather and try to really understand how the weather works and blah, 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 like, we really just need to respond to it. Okay, you can understand how the weather works, so that way you can respond to it and issue the appropriate warnings, but you do this humbly. What the green weenies have done, they're not doing it humbly. They're trying to say that they know, or they're prophesying. They're really like false prophets. You've got AOC saying that the world is going to end in 5-6 years from now due to global warming or climate change, whatever they're calling it now. So they're really making a mockery of God's divine tool. So let's talk numbers. I told you I wanted to break this down for you. You're going to be shocked. The entire NWS budget, the National Weather Service budget, is $1.4 billion. $1.4 billion. And I know that sounds like a lot, But in the grand scheme of things, $1.4 billion, we probably spend more on foreign aid to Ukraine in a single month, because that is like the yearly number, okay? $1.4 billion for NWS. And that is far less than what the federal government probably spends on Ukraine in a given month, okay? So this is a very small number. And NOAA, they have a much larger budget. Like I said, NWS is under NOAA. Meanwhile, you've got 2 NWS field offices here in Lincoln, like I said, or here in Illinois, Lincoln and Romeoville. They are supported by the agency's Administrative Management Division, okay, which gets about $120 million, okay? So there's NWS, okay? Now, there's the Administrative Management Division within NWS. So it's a lot of bureaucracy. It's just stupid. I feel like you could probably get rid of NOAA entirely and just take what that money was and just give it to the National Weather Service Administrative Management Division Fund, because these are the people who are actually on the ground. So take a listen to this number, $120 million in the budget for the Administrative Management Division. The Administrative Management Division is what operates the field offices, and there are 32 offices in the nation. Okay, we should have more than that. I think that we should definitely have more than 2 in Illinois. Illinois is a huge state. Have you ever traveled the entire state of Illinois? It'll take you like 12 hours. So we've got one in Lincoln. We've got one in Romeoville. I'd love to see one closer to St. Louis. I'd love to see one in Southern Illinois. It'd be great to have more field offices. And, if you do a calculation, you're looking at, $4 million per office, if they're dividing it up equally. So this is wild to me. These are the field offices. So where you actually see the weather balloon, I live right next to one. I talk to people who work there. They're the actual people on the ground issuing the alerts, and they're the ones who are there at 2 a.m. Okay. Now, what's interesting is the $120 million. We don't even know exactly if, of that $120 million, if all of that is going to the field offices. Some of that might be going to, your DEI seminars, your HRs, your HR training modules, your DC office furniture. Okay. How much of that is actually going to equipment and forecasters? And I've already broken this down for you. So 1.4 million total NWS budget, 120 million, just a small little fraction of that is going to these offices. And even of that, we don't even know how much of that is exactly going to the offices, because there could be most likely, your HR training modules or your DEI, your bureaucracy from within the forecasting offices. So money's not going to the people. I'm just going to be honest with you. The money's not going to the people who are manning the Doppler radar at 2 a.m. in the morning. It's just not. So when you look at this thing, and Donald Trump is trying to correct that, hence the 6.7% increase to the National Weather Service budget. Okay, so NOAA spokesman, quoted in the Center Square, claims that they're stabilizing things and they're filling critical roles. So here's what's going on. NOAA, they've had threats of this budget cut, okay, because NOAA is getting a 27% cut. When you break it down, you'll see that Trump's proposed plan, it says 6.7% increase for the National Weather Service, which is a subset of NOAA. They say that they're filling critical roles and that they're rotating people to needed locations, yada, yada, yada. Okay, that's what NOAA says. Here's the truth. The government agencies get bloated, they get centralized, and then they become reactive, not proactive. So by the time they finish their reassignment opportunity notices, tornadoes already going to be touched down in Taylorville. So the urgency here, like I said, the public schools, the first thing on the chopping block when they don't get their tax rate hikes, or if they're facing a budget deficit, the first thing they'll say is, oh, we're going to cut the kids' extracurriculars. Oh, we're going to cut teachers, and the classroom sizes are going to get bigger. Same thing is going on here. NOAA's heard of these budget cut threats, and they've done a hiring freeze, and they're like freaking out, and really it's affecting the National Weather Service, the people who, just like the public schools, the people who are on boots on the ground and actually doing the freaking work. Okay. The administrators are never threatened. In the public school, for comparison, you'll never hear about the DEI or the HR, the various HR directors. You'll never hear about them getting cut. You'll always hear about the extracurriculars getting cut, or band getting cut, or the teachers getting cut. Okay. So I can't stress this enough. We need to do this quickly, where we reorganize and we start to manage the bureaucracy here in NOAA quickly, because a tornado could be touched down while they're trying to finish their, restructuring in NWS. And really what needs to happen is we just need to cut a lot of these administrative roles. So Eric Swartzen's answer would be to throw money at social science. That's what he said. And he wants to throw more money at social science. And I'm sorry, but that's like patching a leaky roof with some paint. Okay. That's what that's like. If we throw more money at the problem and we don't actually fix the problem, which is that this is an abuse of bureaucracy where the operators are not getting the money. So here's a good idea. Let's decentralize this whole thing. I'd say get rid of NOAA entirely. Get rid of the entire agency, and then just focus on like this National Weather Service and this forecasting offices. Okay, so we need to empower the local forecasters. We need to empower these local field offices who are actually doing the work. Let the Romeovilles, let the Lincoln field offices lead Illinois' forecasting efforts, not be micromanaged by a committee of career bureaucrats, okay, in Washington who don't know, a cornfield from a Whole Foods parking lot. Okay, they're not on the ground. They don't know what the weather's like. A lot of these people who work in these field offices live in these communities, live where they're working. So they know the weather. They are the experts. And it's so funny, you'll hear Democrats say this all the time, trust the experts, but they don't. And they hire all of these bureaucrats, these career bureaucrats, and they always try to figure out, what more can we say about global warming? What more can we say about climate equity? And how can we effectively communicate that to gay people in Chicago or gay people in this area? And it's like, dude, just tell us the weather. Okay. So look, folks, I could see the headline tomorrow. Most likely, here's what's going to happen. They're going to say storms disproportionately affect LGBTQ beach communities, or whatever. Congress must ask. So if Donald Trump gets his way, which I'm sure he will in the 2026 proposed budget plan, where we get the National Weather Service, we get a little bit of this more streamlining NOAA, and we try to eliminate, it's a 27% cut. We try to eliminate a lot of those career bureaucrats, and we give the money to the people who are actually operators, boots on the ground. If he pulls this off, people are going to start screaming off the rooftops. They're going to say Trump's NOAA chief refuses to use gender neutral tornado classifications. Equity groups are outraged. Okay. So you've got like a group of bureaucrats who, like, quite literally, I wouldn't be shocked if they try to find general neutral, like, tornado classifications or come up with terms that are gender safe. Like, I wouldn't doubt that kind of stuff is going on. That's what the 27% cut is all about. And there's just been so much misinformation about this, which is why I wanted to dedicate some time to tell you what's actually going on. We've built a system where warning sirens are delayed because some federal analyst in DC had to finalize his inclusion communication toolkit. Okay, we can't focus on issuing warnings or sirens, and we can't issue all that stuff until we've finished our communication toolkit, or you've gone through 7 HR trainings on how to be more equitable with the gender community when it pertains to tornado classifications. Okay. So like, it's complete madness. And Donald Trump is trying to fix it. So here's the solutions. And like the biblical perspective, every show I'll give you a biblical perspective, but I also want to give you solutions because I presented you all the numbers, the information, how much the NWS is actually funded, which is not a lot at all. And I very rarely do I call for funding for an agency, federal agency. I don't think that throwing funds at anything usually it doesn't fix anything. Okay, you need to prioritize your spending. NOAA, I'd say eliminate NOAA completely and just keep the National Weather Service in these field offices and prioritize your funding for them, which Donald Trump is doing through the 2026 budget. So what do we do from here? What are my solutions, Kat? Well, we got to support Donald Trump's NWS funding increase, the 6.7%. And I know what you're thinking, Kat, you're calling for more spending. Look, I looked at the numbers. They're abysmal. Okay. And this is targeted. This is focused, much like, hey, you got to spend on the border. The big, beautiful bill, they spent $170 billion. You got to spend on some things like the National Weather Service. This is boots on the ground operation, Border Patrol, ICE agents. Those are boots on the ground operation. And it's going to save us money. If you invest now in the National Weather Service, you don't have to respond. If we can get people evacuated from these areas where natural disasters strike, then we don't have to spend so much money getting FEMA out there. Okay. Much like the Border Patrol, if we spend the money now, the $170 billion in the border bill or in the big, beautiful bill, if we spend that money now, we're not going to spend all kinds of money in the future, Medicaid for illegals, all of that. So this just makes sense. It's not bloated, not bloated, where we just throw money at it. We have to do a targeted, focused approach and fund essential operations. Because this isn't about politics. This is about getting warnings done on time and giving money to experts to do that job. We need to demand transparency from NOAA and the NWS. We need to make sure that the National Weather Service, that like 120, they have 1.4 billion, but then there's 120 million that's given to we need to ask why the National Weather Service is taking a fraction of their budget and funding the field offices. Because the field offices, I would imagine common sense would tell you that those are the most important. So we need to ask why the 1.4 billion is not going to the field offices. I told you it's the 120 million that's going to the field offices. So we need to ask how much of the 1.4 billion is locked up in HR, non-essential research, all of that. And like I said, I'm all about researching, but researching with a purpose. The leftists and your Eric Swarensons who want to throw money at social sciences, what they're trying to do is they're trying to be anti-Christian, and they're trying to say, hey, we can control the weather, when the Bible is very clear that we can't control the weather and that it's in God, the winds are in God's hands. So call your state leaders. Yes, even Pritzker, call them and tell them to stop relying on DC to solve local weather challenges. Perhaps if we weren't funding things like Drag Queen Story Hour or ICER, the Illinois Coalition of Immigrants, Refugees' Rights, or whatever, and giving them $63 million, or if we weren't giving $40 million for a sports complex in Chris Welch's district, or if we weren't giving $5 million well, think about this. The 120 million. Now I said, we don't even know if they're getting exactly 4 million. There's 32 field offices, the National Weather Service. There's 32 field offices. Let's say they're getting 4 million, approximately each. So that's about 7 million to 10 million here in the state of Illinois because we have 2 field offices. Think about this. We gave 5 million to NASCAR, okay, for them to for a weekend to run around their cars in Chicago. Okay. We gave 5 million to them. I mean, that would fund an entire new field office. We could throw it in Southern Illinois. Think about that. Think about how jacked our priorities are. We have NASCAR in Chicago. By the way, let's put NASCAR where NASCAR is, which is, Southern Illinois. Right. Meanwhile, we already have a track in Joliet. why would we do a street track and reinvent the wheel here when we've already got a track that NASCAR's raced on before? But they sent, $5 million to NASCAR to do this race. And it's like, whoa, back up. We could fund an entire field office at a state level for $5 million by this math. So anyway, we need to call on our state leaders, because if we reprioritized funding, we would have money for more field offices, or we would have more money to give our current field or our existing field offices. Okay, most importantly, we need to restore the biblical view of weather. Okay, storms are going to come, folks. That's not crisis, it's a given. Okay, it's a given. We know that storms are going to come. It's always a tragedy when storms come and take out entire populations or entire communities or sweep away children. But we need to prepare, and our preparation will reveal our wisdom. And we need to be humble in our preparation. We can't take it out of God's hands. We can't control the direction of the wind. We can't stop global warming or climate change. Okay, we need to realize whose hands natural weather is actually in. And we need to realize it's a given. Natural disasters are a given. We need to humbly prepare, and that would reveal our wisdom. And we need to respond, and how we respond shows our faith. So we don't need bigger weather bureaucracy. We need leaner, meaner, truth-telling forecasting force, boots on the ground in these field offices. And we need the National Weather Service to get back to the basics, which is just predicting weather, warning the public, and staying out of social engineering business, and trying to really take weather out of God's hands. Because that is what the bureaucracy is trying to do, is they're trying to take the weather out of God's hands, which the weather is his. So the storm is coming, not just in the skies, but in our culture. And as always, stay anchored in truth. I do want to take a quick break, but go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to take a quick little break, and then we're going to come back, and I want to talk about the insurance extortion going on here in the state of Illinois. And what's really freaky about this is they're extorting you, State Farm, but there's also a solution. And the solution that Governor J.B. Pritzker is wanting is to turn the Department of Insurance into the Socialist Command Center. So there's a lot of things going on in the state of Illinois, where they want to transition us from private businesses, and they want to transition us into like a socialist type society. And they've done it with a few sectors, or they're attempting to do it in a few sectors, which is really fascinating. This is another one. So buckle up, folks. You guys are going to love this story. Your home insurance rates are going up. So this is very important to your daily life. Your home insurance rates are going up. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you what the solution isn't. I'll be right back. Hey, good morning. I'm a conservative cat. Go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe to the channel right now. Follow me on social media. I'm on TikTok, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Rumble. Just go there, hit the follow button. That really helps us out, folks. All right, we're going to buckle up, because State Farm just announced a plan to raise home owners insurance rates by $500 million. By over $500 million. And naturally, the left sees this as their chance to seize even more control over our economy. So I've seen this it's really interesting. I've seen this in Illinois more so over the last couple of years, where you're starting to hear Democrats want to take control over sectors of our economy. So here's what I mean by that. The banks, okay, and the financing sector. Okay, so there's been talk about eliminating these credit card swipe fees. Okay, so you're a small business owner, and I have a little diner here. They don't actually do credit cards, they just do credit cash. Okay, and there's a reason why some businesses don't, because it's kind of costly. As a small business owner, it's kind of costly to facilitate a payment processing structure. Okay, so they have to pay a fee. Well, consumers also have to pay the fee. And what they're trying to do is eliminate those fees, taxes on those fees. The Democrats, okay, in Illinois, Democrats, Republicans, a lot of people are for this. And they're trying to say, oh, well, it's going to save the consumer money, and it's going to save small business owners and things like that. Really what's going on here is they're trying to control sectors of our economy. Okay, so what they're going to wind up doing is making it very, very difficult for businesses. And Walmart already has their own payment infrastructure. They're going to be fine. They're going to figure it out. But you're going to find that a lot of people are going to be thrown into chaos if they don't have those card companies like Visa and MasterCard to do payment processing at their businesses. So I think what's going to happen is you're going to have complete chaos. You're going to have businesses saying, well, we can't implement our own payment structure. And they left the state of Illinois, which they've threatened to do already because of this bill. Now it's tied up in court, and it's been paused by the governor, where they're trying to get rid of these swipe fees, or taxes on these swipe fees, where you can't pay taxes on these swipe fees. And that's going to be a lot of work for these credit card companies to try to, fix this for this specific state. Okay, for the state of Illinois. No other state, no other country in the nation really has something like this, where they're going to mandate these credit card payment processors to change the way they process payments. State of Illinois is mandating that on them. Okay, so it's very interesting, because I wouldn't doubt that the state of Illinois would get into the business of payment processing, right? Or offering that service to businesses in the state of Illinois, which is really creepy and weird, because right now the way that you've got it is some businesses, if they don't want to pay for the fees, or if they don't want to deal with it, they can just go cash only. And there's some businesses like that, and especially rural America, rural Illinois. Some people just don't want to bother with it. But other people don't mind paying for, the swipe fees or the taxes on these swipe fees, because guess what? They're offering a service, and they don't mind paying a little something because there's a service being provided. They're processing the payments for them. These business owners, okay, they don't have their own payment infrastructure. So I wouldn't be shocked if you wind up seeing something like an Illinois payment infrastructure, and they start offering that to businesses if this bill were to get through, and if they were to place this mandate on these credit card companies. And they're fighting it in court because apparently it goes against the National Bank Act. So that's one. So the credit card thing, the credit card swipe fees, if you're not aware, I've done shows on this in the past. What that bill exactly is, maybe I'll do another one here soon. But the crux of it is they're creating a problem for this industry, the banking industry, the people who the payment processing industry, and they're creating a problem there, and a mandate, really. And what's going to wind up happening is they're going to leave, and who do we have left? Well, the state of Illinois could step up. And you see this also, so there's that sector, but you also see this in the this is really weird, the retirement space. So there's something called Secure Choice Program here in the state of Illinois, where you're automatically opt into retirement, which was just bizarre to me. And then the asset managers of that are like BlackRock and another big bank. But they're getting into the business of like your retirement. So typically, what you would do is you do a Roth IRA and you bank, or you do it through a specific bank that you choose, and you have the choice of what bank you bank with, and you keep your retirement with. Okay, so you can, have a high yield savings account, and you get to choose where you want your retirement at. Okay, what bank you want it with. Now, what Illinois has done is they are trying to get into the retirement space. Right now, they've got asset managers, but I just find it so odd because it's like socialism. I mean, that's really what it is it's socialism, where they want to get they want to control everything, the state of Illinois, every little aspect about your life, from the way your business processes payments to where you keep your retirement to now this. I think that their goal here is to do socialist or socialized insurance, home insurance. So State Farm, they announced that they're going to raise your insurance rates by over $500 million, which is insane. So the left is now seeing this as, and they are the ones who created this problem. Okay, State Farm having the ability to really extort homeowners through raising the insurance rates. They have this ability because there's never been real reform, lobbying reforms here in the state of Illinois. I mean, they're the people who make the rules. Okay, the lobbyists, the insurance lobbyists. And we've never cracked down on that. And there's a way to crack down on that ethically and by passing ethics reforms. But we've never done that here in the state of Illinois, and lobbyists control everything. Okay. So the problem isn't just your greedy corporations and your lobbyists who control everything. It's the people who create these solutions. They created the problem by allowing these lobbyists to run amok. But now JB is out there and he wants to turn the Department of Insurance into a socialist command center. And this whole mess, it's like the ugly love child of corporate favors and progressive ambition. So there's all kinds of and the housing sector, they've tried to go after the housing sector, where they have mandated all kinds of things on small landlords or small landlords. So for example, landlords, they can't even say, no, I'm not going to take Venmo. No, I'm not going to allow you to, Zelle me cash for your rent, because they mandated that in the state of Illinois for small landlords. Like if you're a small landlord, you have to, take that form of payment or a check. You can't mandate your tenant to pay through a payment portal and charge them a transaction fee. So what they're trying to do, the state of Illinois, by placing all these mandates on small landlords, is they're trying to oust them, and then in come the corporate. So the corporate type, BlackRock, they're into housing. These apartment complexes come in, and then the greedy corporations and the government are like this. But I would foresee that the government wants to step up. I think that these greedy corporations, they're lockstep with politicians, but they're going to get burned pretty quick. And we're starting to see that, because it's never enough for the government. It's a power control thing. So they don't want the greedy corporations to have all the power. I think the government would eventually come in and start doing housing, like government housing, right? They already do that, to a degree, but I think that they really want to start stepping in and start doing government housing. And that's why they're placing so many mandates on these small landlords. It's because they're competition, and they got to get rid of the competition before they can come in and offer the solution. Okay, so you're already hearing it in Illinois communities where they're like, there's not enough housing. Yeah, it's because you forced all the landlords out. And nobody wants to do real estate here in the state of Illinois because it's tough. And nobody wants to, be a landlord. So now we've got to usher in, what's the solution? Well, the solution is rent controls. The solution is these big corporate type housing complexes, these massive apartment complexes. So they've already done it in multiple sectors of our economy, and they're trying to do it in this sector as well, the insurance sector. So Illinois could lose what little insurance market we already have, we have left, and hand it over to hand over more power to Springfield. Okay, so Governor J.B. Pritzker is out there saying like, oh, we need to pass legislation that, you know, stops these evil insurance companies from raising the rates to astronomical levels. And yes, they are at astronomical levels, which I will get to here in just a second, but this didn't start yesterday. Okay. For decades now, like I said, these companies like State Farm, Allstate, they've had a cozy seat right there in Springfield, and they've been whispering in the legislators' ears for decades, Democrats, Republicans alike. And these politicians have let them write the rules. In exchange, they'll funnel money into their campaign coffers. Okay. So there is a way to fix this. We've just never done it in the state of Illinois, where we pass meaningful ethics reform, where we don't embolden the lobbyists and have the lobbyists run amok with power. Okay. So Illinois has no legal standard to block excessive or discriminatory rates. Okay. And the reason why Illinois doesn't have that power, the state of Illinois, is because there's been years of lobbying going on where they write the rules. Okay. And of course, if you're writing the rules, you're not going to write any rules in for yourself or checks and balances for yourself if you're State Farm or you're Allstate. So that's not oversight. It's intentional. The rules were written by the players. Free market, hardly. It's been corporation welfare in khakis. Okay. What's been going on in Springfield? They are very, very cozy with your lawmakers. The lobbyists are cozy with them. So now the tide is turning. These very same companies that benefited from government favoritism are finding themselves targeted by the left, who don't want reform. They want control. So they want control over the insurance companies. And I know right now that it seems like, oh, well, we need something in place for State Farm so they can't charge these excessive rates. Yeah, well, the way we do it is to pass ethics reforms and get them to stop lobbying our lawmakers, and they stop writing the rules. So option A, we're being told that we have to pick sides. Option A would be let State Farm jack up our premiums unchecked. Okay. Option B, give Governor J.B. Pritzker and the far left legislature total authority to decide what's a fair rate and what's a fair home insurance rate. And I don't know about you, but both those options sound sucky. They both sound wrong. Corporate monopolies are the problem, but socialized insurance is worse. Okay, so option A, you've got these corporate monopolies. They're a big, big problem. The way we defang these people is we get them out of our legislature and we stop having them craft rules for themselves through our legislature and by donating campaign money into the coffers of our politicians. But socialized insurance is much worse, and this is the direction we're headed, and this is the path we're on. Because once government gets their claws into insurance rates and can set the rates, it's not just about oversight anymore. This is a political weapon. They'll reward their friends and punish their enemies, and they'll drive companies out of the state altogether. Okay, and that's how you get shortages. That's how you get mandatory state-run insurance plans. So, though, that's how you wake up in a world where private coverage is outlawed. So private home insurance coverage is outlawed, and your state owns your home insurance, your health, your wallet. And I told you, these sectors of the economy, they are all about socialized healthcare. They are all about socialized banking. They want you're probably going to get like a state issued credit card at this point that says Illinois on it rather than Visa or MasterCard. They want to own your home. They want to own your health. They want to own your wallet. And if we look at this biblically, God calls for justice, not favoritism, not extortion, and not control. Micah 6:8 says, "What does the Lord require of you but to do justice, love, mercy, and walk humbly with your God?" So what we're seeing in Illinois is not justice. State Farm isn't being humble. They're exploiting people. Okay. And they claim they serve, the State Farm claim they serve, these people, but they're actually exploiting them. $500 million in a rate hike is a little bit ridiculous, in my opinion. Pritzker isn't seeking fairness. What he's doing is he's using this moment to expand his reach in the state under the banner of equity. Okay. So this isn't about protecting homeowners. This is about power and who gets it. Is it going to be the corporations or is it going to be the state? And it's this back and forth tug of war of who gets all the power. So biblical economics respects private property, rewards work, and limits the power of both kings and merchants. Okay, we should limit the power of the merchants, but we should also limit the power of the kings. We don't want to give all the power to the kings, okay, the King Pritzkers, okay. Our founders understood this, and liberty requires free enterprise, not corporate collusion and not state control. Okay, so we need a true free enterprise, true free market, and what happens if the state takes over? Okay, so say the Department of Insurance, they start mandating State Farm to issue set rates or like rent control. Similarly, this would be insurance control. Okay, the Department of Insurance says you can't set this rate. Let me paint you a picture of what this would look like if we play it out. Say we give the Department of Insurance the power to approve or reject rate hikes. Okay, say we give them the power to do that. At first, it sounds great. You're like, oh, yeah, they can reject rate hikes and limit how much they charge people for home insurance until the state begins setting acceptable profit margins, then begins requiring equity-based pricing, okay, which they've already tried to do. The bill hasn't gone anywhere, where they're trying to say, like, you can't charge people more, and these are actuarial people in State Farm where they aren't going off of race anyway. Okay, that's illegal. You can't go off of race, but you can go after or go off of credit scores. You can go over or off of like zip codes and things like that, but they've tried to outlaw that with car insurance here in the state of Illinois. And what you're going to wind up doing is you're going to start chasing these people out, the insurance companies. Okay, we kind of already seen it with California. You're going to start chasing the private people out, and the companies will leave. Sorry. So California, Florida, New York, once the government steps in, the private sector starts to step out. Okay, that's what will happen. And then suddenly your choices disappear. You don't even have really a whole lot right now because they're lobbying like crazy, these corporations in Springfield. So there's not even a ton of choices right now. Allstate, you have State Farm. You don't have a whole lot of choices right now. And your premiums are skyrocketing anyway. But with the government stepping in, your choices are going to disappear completely. And, the government is going to roll out its big, solution, which would be the public option. Once these insurance companies leave and they've been mandated or they've been, required to set certain rates, they're going to start to leave. And just like healthcare, just like student loans, just like every program, they will ruin it. Okay. They've ruined healthcare. The reason why healthcare is so expensive is because it's so heavily subsidized. Even the State Farm home insurance and things like that, that stuff is all heavily subsidized too. But the healthcare industry is very heavily subsidized. And we have like things like a state-run healthcare, and it's awful because that's what ultimately creates a $15 box of Kleenexes, which should be like $5. They can charge $15, knowing that there's going to be state money, state tax dollars, and they know that they can charge astronomical prices, the hospitals and things for a box of tissues, because they can bill the government, and there's an endless supply of taxpayer dollars. For example, EBTs, Food Snap, all of that, there's billions of dollars that Walmart gets in food stamps, EBTs. which is why they've made such a ruckus about the work requirements and things like that, because there's going to be less people on EBT, and that's less guaranteed cash. Okay. So they skyrocket the costs in the grocery stores because they know that there's going to be billions of dollars in EBTs spent at their grocery stores, at Walmart, for example. So they're going to ruin this program, I'm sure, if they roll out like a public option for house insurance or for home insurance. It won't be called socialized insurance, of course not. It'll probably be called something like the Illinois Home Protection Plan. But it's going to be just as bloated, it's going to be just as broke, and just as politicized. And once that happens, you'll never get it back. You'll never get back your freedoms, your choices, your options. And we don't even have a whole lot of them right now because of the lobbying that has gone on and because of the lack of ethics reforms the state of Illinois has. So here's how this would all play out. Jake from State Farm calls you up. Oh, hey, Jake, why are my rates 70% higher than they were last year? Well, because you live in this zip code and you voted Republican in 2024. You know, and this is going to be Jake from Illinois rather than the State Farm, because State Farm has left, and at this point, it's just the Illinois Home Protection Plan. You're going to call them up and you're going to be like, hey, my rates are so much higher, than last year. What's going on? Well, it's because you voted for Republicans and you voted Trump. What? Wait, hold on a second. What do you mean, Jake from Illinois Home Protection Plan? Oh, your new plan includes mandatory carbon offsets and gender-affirming repair estimates. And, that's why it's gone up so much, is because we have to make sure your house is, gender neutral and that you have a rainbow flag planted out front. It can get that crazy. I know it sounds absurd, but we're not far off from that, folks. The government controls the rates. They can enforce their ideology through insurance. Did you install? Here's probably something more feasible. Did you install solar panels? If you didn't install solar panels, then your home insurance rates aren't going to be as low. Okay, if you are with the public option in Illinois, then your insurance rates are going to be low. And then if you don't have a gas, or if you have a gas stove and you don't have an electric stove, well, you're going to get a premium penalty for that. I can see this playing itself out. So we have to be very careful. Pride flag for the month of June. You didn't put out a pride flag. Well, I'm going to deem you a high risk homeowner, and you are going to have higher premiums than our ideological acolytes and people who vote for us. Okay. So this is the path we're headed on. So what do? We do have to end the cozy deals and relationships in Springfield. We have to end cronyism, end the lobbying loopholes, end the PAC money, and expose the PAC money. We have to do that because that's why the insurance companies have, run amok and they are able to charge you so much, is because they've had these cozy relationships for so long. We need to push transparency, not socialism. We need to probably require, I think that this would be the most that we could do for our insurance companies, is require them to justify their rate hikes, their major hikes, justify it and publicly post it on their website. There's nothing wrong with mandating that, I don't think. But we can't let the politicians control the pricing and the rates and at what rates, because this isn't the USSR. Okay. We can't have the politicians deciding that. They should publicly post it, sure. But forcing what's a fair rate hike on private businesses, you're getting into socialism. And we need to encourage more competition. So what we've done here in the state of Illinois, much like with the landlords, we've iced them out, the landlords, through all kinds of frivolous mandates, stupid little mandates. We need to break up this duopoly and make Illinois attractive for new, smaller insurers. So not your big ones like State Farm or Allstate, maybe these smaller insurers. And we need real free market, real free enterprise going on here in the state of Illinois. And we need to stop mandating so many things of these smaller insurers and stop giving a pass to State Farm, Allstate, and some of these people who can afford like crazy amounts of lobbyism or lobbyists to be in Springfield to write the rules. We need to make it easier for small insurers, to exist here in the state of Illinois. And what we've done throughout the years is we've iced them out, similar to that of the small landlords. We've iced them out and ushered in these big corporations like BlackRock to do housing. And really what this is, it's all about socialism and controlling what you eat, controlling where you house yourself, your health, how you buy things, and how you pay for things. So we need to elect leaders who fear God, not campaign donors, okay? Not the State Farm campaign donors. We need people who actually fear God and will do the right thing. We don't need socialist technocrats or corporate puppets. We need statesmen. We need people who fear God above all else, and we need to empower citizens, not the bureaucrats. And we need to let people negotiate, shop, move, challenge, and protect their own property without being trapped by government and global corporations. So if State Farm keeps raising their rates, we need to make it easier for small insurers to come in and undercut them, because if State Farm keeps doing that, then they're not going to exist as an insurance company because people won't be able to afford it. But what we've done here in Illinois is we've iced out those smaller insurers, so it makes it impossible to choose somebody else. But they're creating the problem because they want the solution. And like I said, the solution for Governor J.B. Pritzker is complete control and a public option, probably socialized insurance. And, State Farm is wrong for exploiting Illinois families, but Pritzker is wrong for using this moment to push for government control. Both are part of a rotten system because Illinois politics has always served power, not the people. We need to serve the people, and the way we do that is by not icing out these small insurers and stop with the whole lobbying thing. Okay, stop letting them write the rules and letting State Farm ice through legislation out their competition. So, for example, the cannabis industry. Most likely it's going to wind up being state-run too, where you've got, big marijuana. They're currently working, the lobbyists are currently working with the state of Illinois and your legislators to ice out their competition, which would be these like hemp dealers or these cannabinoid businesses. And I wouldn't doubt that eventually they'd do their own state dispensaries. Like that is coming down the line. I really do believe that we're down that path, because if they're willing to go to bat for this corporation, eventually so these corporations are going to get burned. They think they have control now. They don't have any control. They're letting them think that they have control. These Illinois politicians will let them get control, but then you get these power-hungry politicians like Governor J.B. Pritzker, these tyrant types. They're going to come in and they are going to burn you, and then they're going to create a state option. So you and I, we're stuck in this system, this rotten system, but we have a voice, we have a vote, and most of all, we have the truth. And as Christians, we know that freedom and responsibility go hand in hand. That means holding corporations accountable without handing the state absolute power. We have to hold these people accountable, but we can do it in a way where we don't have to give the state all this power. And eventually they'll come out with a public option if we give them all kinds of, they'll have to come out with a public option, because if they have all this power over the insurance companies, then the insurance companies are just going to wind up leaving. We've already seen it in California. So this isn't about right or left. It's about liberty versus tyranny. And right here on this show, Conservative Cat, we're always going to stand on the side of liberty. I got to take a quick break. But speaking of California, we are going to be talking about a field. So there was this field where ICE did like a raid, and the mainstream media is saying, oh, they raided it a strawberry field, and they started rounding up children. Excuse me. So what we're going to do is we're going to break this down, because it wasn't a strawberry field. It was a cannabis field, and there were children working in this cannabis field, allegedly. And I don't know about you, but that kind of sounds like a cannabis field run by a cartel, which a lot of that is going on in not only the state of California, but everywhere else. There is a black market still out there for cannabis. And you've got cartels running these marijuana fields. And I don't know, it looks like there were children who might have been trafficked and forced to work in these cannabis fields. But there was an ICE raid, and Governor Gavin Newsom, who believes no human is illegal, also apparently condones minors working in marijuana fields. I'm going to get to that here in just a second. You're listening to Conservative Cat. Welcome back to Conservative Cat Clips, where we claw through the lies and we lay out the truth. No filter, no fluff. I'm your host, Kat, and we're tackling the abortion debacle today, but this time we're pulling back the curtain on abortion's ugly origin story. Let's talk about Margaret Sanger, founder of what would become Planned Parenthood. The left treats her like some sort of feminist hero, but they conveniently leave out where she was a eugenicist and she spoke at KKK rallies, and she wanted to, quote, weed out the unfit. Her words, not mine, folks. In a 1938 letter, Sanger wrote about her plans to target Black communities, and I quote, "We do not want the word to get out that we want to exterminate the Negro population." Does that sound like they're trying to hide something, doesn't it? Planned Parenthood was built on this ideology, and Sanger didn't want to empower women. She wanted to control population growth, particularly among minorities, the poor, and the disabled, anyone she and her elite pals deemed less desirable. That's who she wanted to weed out. And guess what? The legacy still haunts the abortion industry today. Don't believe me? Look at the numbers. Black women make up about 13% of the population, but they account for nearly 40% of all abortions. You think that's by accident? No, ma'am. That's what's called targeted marketing and deception. They're marketing abortion to Black women. So while the media glamorizes abortion as freedom, let's be real. It started with a woman who thought freedom meant eliminating the weak. And while the left tears down statues of long dead so-called racists, they keep handing out awards named after Margaret Sanger. Hypocrisy much? The left is tearing down these statues, but yet they're handing out awards named after Margaret Sanger. Now, I know some folks are going to say, well, that was a long time ago, Kat, sure, but Planned Parenthood is still the nation's largest abortion provider. They're still planting clinics in these low-income minority neighborhoods, and they're marketing abortions to minorities. And they were raking in $500 million of taxpayer dollars, by the way, every year. And just until recently, President Donald Trump signed this executive order to end the federal taxpayer dollars to fund and promote elective abortion. The order recognizes that for nearly 5 decades, Congress enacted a little something called the Hyde Amendment. It's a series of additional laws to protect taxpayers from being forced to pay for abortion. That's what the Hyde Amendment does. Contrary to this longstanding common sense policy, the previous administration, Joe Biden, they dedicated all kinds of federal funding to elective abortion and a wide variety of government programs. This isn't about women's health. It's about politics, power, and profit. The future, it's up to us. In a post-Roe world, gives us this chance to right historic wrongs. We need laws that protect the unborn, support women, and finally shut down the lie that abortion is some kind of virtue. This has been Conservative Cat Clips. I'm Kat, reminding you that the truth has claws and history doesn't lie. Margaret Sanger's past isn't just history, it's the foundation of a system that we are fighting today. Stand tall, speak out, and choose life. Hey, go ahead and smash that like button and subscribe to the channel today. Today we are talking about Governor Gavin Newsom. This is a Conservative Cat Show. And we're always going to stand for liberty here. Now, according to the internet, you've got to be at least 21 years old to be in the cannabis industry, okay, in the cannabis industry space, in the sanctuary state of California. Same is true for Illinois. If you're working around cannabis, you got to be 21 years old, okay? You can't be a kid selling cannabis at a dispensary. You can't be a kid work in the fields, the marijuana fields, okay? For obvious reasons. This is what makes this so bizarre. So Governor Gavin Newsom, as Trump so lovingly calls him, thinks that he's being compassionate by allowing what looks like the exploitation of children to work on these farms. So Newsom, he believes, obviously, no human being is illegal, but he also apparently condones minors working in marijuana fields. So this is proven by the fact that he called out ICE officers for supposedly scarring children, children of a mother who they deported, who ICE deported. So he's saying that these children were scarred because this woman was deported, and she is apparently the mother of a child who was also there at this marijuana field where they were conducting an ICE raid. Okay, so nobody's talking about how, hey, maybe these minors were trafficked across the border into the state to be used as slave labor in the very hot summer sun in an industry reserved for adults, by the way, the cannabis industry. They want them to work in the hot summer sun and really work the fields of these marijuana fields. So you do the math on where he stands on this. So I'm going to play this clip. This is how it all went down, and I'll share this with you. Children protesters running from tear gas during an immigration raid. You'll see this field here. A lot of people have been reporting this as a strawberry field. It is not a strawberry field. This is a cannabis field. Okay, let's take a look.
Do not panic, do not run! Do not run! They took your mom?
Okay. So they asked this boy in this video here, did they take your mom? This is obviously like a teenager, and this is a cannabis field. Okay, right there in the background, you can see it, cannabis field. And I don't know, maybe it was like bring your kid to work day, and the mom brought like the kids, I don't know. I doubt it, right? Something tells me otherwise. Something tells me that these kids might be used for manual labor in the hot sun to work in an industry that is typically reserved for adults. So Governor Gavin Newsom, he came out and condemned this, and he said, no human's illegal. And of course, he's called out ICE officers for scarring these children by deporting his mom. Okay, so he's like completely scared because they deported his mom. Most likely, these are people who are trafficked over the border and forced by a cartel to work. I'm just going to be honest with you what it looks like to me. It looks like these people were forced to work in a marijuana field. And this isn't anything new. And I'll get to the numbers here. A lot of marijuana fields are still black market controlled by the drug cartels. I'll get to the numbers, but nonetheless, behold the man Newsom, who has proven to be not very masculine, in my opinion, according to this photo. Take a look. Libs of TikTok shared this photo. I don't know. Men in the comments section, do you sit like this? I've never seen a man sit with his legs crossed like that ever in my life. And I like how Libs of TikTok said this. Men, do you sit like this? Behold, the man, the peak of masculinity right there, Governor Gavin Newsom. Like, these people are so ridiculous. What really makes me so mad about this is clearly there's people who are being exploited here, and nobody wants to get to the bottom of it, and they'd rather report on the kids are scarred because mama was deported. Why are they there? Why are the kids there in a marijuana field? And why are they there? They're illegal immigrants. Why is his mom there? So according to Fox News, protesters, they clashed with federal authorities last week during an immigration week raid. This was late last week. This was an immigration operation north of Los Angeles at a marijuana farm, allegedly employing illegal immigrants. So multiple agents arrived at Glass House Farms, a state-licensed cannabis facility, which is considered illegal, by the way, under federal law. It's legal in California, having a state run that can be licensed. They have it, recreational, just like Illinois does. It's still illegal under federal law, by the way. So they have this Glass House Farms. It's a state licensed cannabis facility. And the federal authorities had actually obtained warrants. Okay, so these are legal warrants, due process, right? Even though illegal immigrants don't have due process, much like felons don't have their rights. Okay, their Second Amendment rights. People say that, oh, illegal immigrants have a right to due process. No, felons don't even have a right to firearms anymore in this country. Okay, so don't sit here and tell me that a felon who is a United States citizen doesn't have firearm rights, Second Amendment rights. That's our Second Amendment. Don't sit here and tell me that illegal immigrants who are non-citizens have right to due process when our own citizens aren't even afforded their own rights. So don't sit there and tell me that illegal immigrants have due process rights. Anyway, despite, you not needing really due process for illegal immigrants, federal authorities, they obtained all kinds of warrants and judicial orders to deport these people, these illegal workers in this marijuana farm, but leftists don't care, obviously, about that. They don't care that this looks like people are being exploited. This looks like there are children who are working in these fields. It looks like this could possibly be a drug cartel operated marijuana plant or marijuana facility, cannabis facility. And why do I bring that up? Well, I wanted to pull an excerpt for you from an NPR article. So, quote, this is a Rich McIntyre. Now, he directs CROP. What is CROP? Cannabis Removal on Public Lands Project. He says, we estimate that 95% of the grows on public land are controlled by foreign drug trafficking organizations. So what's going on here looks like it could possibly be run by a foreign drug cartel operation. They're exploiting children. They're trafficking children across the border to go work in the dead of summer in these cannabis fields. And nobody's talking about that. They're talking about, oh, this poor kid. And good, they probably should get deported back home because that's probably better for them if they're working under a cartel operation. So this black market cannabis thing is still very prevalent. And this guy says 95% or more of the grows, so of the cannabis that grows on public lands, are controlled by foreign drug trafficking or organizations. This is what he says in a 2019 NPR article. Okay, so this has been going on for a while. So there's no evidence suggesting that this particular farm was, I want to be very clear, was operating under a cartel. Okay, now they are registered with the state, which makes me wonder, were they, a drug cartel operation? Did the state, look into this? Are they actually licensed? Like when they say they're licensed, okay, they're licensed, but did somebody actually go check to make sure that these people aren't doing anything nefarious, right? We know in the state of Illinois that apparently there's like a ton of human trafficking going on in these local municipalities. I think it was like 14 businesses or something in Bloomington Normal are alleged, crime fronts or whatever, human trafficking, these massage spas, which prompted, this local ordinance to crack down on human trafficking. But we have a state agency that is supposed to be checking people's licenses. So massage parlors, massage therapists, they're all supposed to register with the state. The state is supposed to be enforcing this. If there's a complaint, you can file it publicly with the state. This is the Illinois professional license department. I forget what it's called. But it's a bureaucracy, an agency that oversees state licensure. Now, we know, being that we live here in the state of Illinois, that they're probably not doing their jobs. If there's human traffickers, who are operating, their massage parlor, they're not checking to make sure that it's a legitimate business and that these are legitimately licensed and they're not meeting the requirements of being a state licensed operator or a state licensed massage parlor. Similar, we could probably assume that or speculate that California state agency most likely isn't as efficient or doesn't work quite as well, just like the Illinois. I would say their agency doesn't operate efficiently. Obviously, we wouldn't have that many human traffickers operating in these massage parlors if this was the case. Okay, so if they were an actual efficient agency who were doing their damn jobs. Okay, so I don't know. Being that it was state licensed doesn't really mean that it's not nefarious. Okay, so it could still be a nefarious operation and it could still be run by the cartel. I'm telling you that I don't have the evidence to suggest that. I'm just looking at this through a common sense lens. If they have children there, okay, unless it was bring your kid to work day, which I'm willing to bet it wasn't. They've got children there. You can't have children working marijuana fields. You just can't. So the California Supreme Leader, he got all up in a tizzy about, this ICE operation. Newsom still turns a blind eye, obviously, for whatever this is, whether it's run by the cartel or not. We still got minors working at obviously cannabis industry. We got to look into that. And Newsom totally dismissed that. Okay. And he focused on the ICE operation and how evil the ICE agents are. Okay. So the fact that the left believes that this puts them on the side of compassion, that they are siding really with the industry that's hiring these illegal immigrants who happen to be children, who happen to be working in an industry reserved for adults. The fact that you've got California Supreme Leader who's siding with that company tells you all you really need to know. And says that, oh, he's on the compassionate side of things. I don't know. That's a slap in the face to human rights everywhere. Having children working fields, drug fields. I don't know about you, but that's not compassionate. I wouldn't want to be on that side of history. Okay. And siding with the company that's doing that, unless it's big, bring your kid to work day, but I highly doubt that. Okay. So I want to get to John Fetterman here in just a little second. Or I'll get to John Fetterman here in just a second. I want to take a quick break, but Fetterman, I don't think he's turning into a Republican anytime soon, but he does vote with Democrats all the time. He's always going to vote for with the Democrats. He's never really going to dissent. But sometimes you need to sit back and really enjoy the content for what it is. And the left is melting down. The internet is melting down because John Fetterman sided with ICE. It's fun to watch this because Fetterman is triggering the left, who has completely abandoned common sense at this point, and he's really just trying to help them. That's not a winning issue to demonize ICE agents, to dox them, to try to pass legislation to get it to where they can't wear masks when conducting these operations. You had Senator Padilla. He was trying to pass that along with a couple of other senators. Donald Trump spoke out against that. Abolishing ICE, not a popular platform. Okay. And Fetterman is just trying to help out his party here. And he released a tweet. I'm going to get to that here in just a second. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends, subscribe. I'm going to get to some of your comments here. They knew they were coming. That's why they brought the children. Oh, yeah, Kevin. That is a great point. So that could be the case. So I might be totally wrong on this cartel thing. I have no evidence that this cannabis field is operated by the cartel. Now, I pulled that 2019 NPR excerpt. I told you that a lot of the cannabis fields in California and are still operating. This guy was saying are operating on the black market and are operated by foreign drug cartels. Okay, so that still exists. Okay, the black market for cannabis still exists, and people are operating illegally in the state, similar to that of, like I said, in Illinois. Just because we have state licensing and you're supposed to have legitimate businesses and register your business with the state, pull out an LLC, right? You're supposed to be a legitimate front. We still have in our state, which is evident, illegal fronts, okay, where you've got a massage parlor who is actually human trafficking or providing prostitution services or things like that. So there's all kinds of nefarious businesses. They might even register with the state, but they have like a legitimate business on paper, but they're not actually legitimate, and it's actually run by the cartel. This has been going on in the state of California. It goes on here in the state of Illinois with human trafficking, I would say. I don't know how well marijuana grows in the state of Illinois, and if there are cannabis fields. I'm not like super into that, and I don't know. But I wouldn't doubt that if there were cannabis fields in the state of Illinois, that there'd be nefarious businesses. This is just the way life goes. Okay, they do exist. So this guy in 2019, quoted from an NPR article, he says that 95% of the cannabis that grows here in the state of California is operated by foreign drug cartels. Okay, so yeah, and this is a great point, Kevin. It might not be the cartel thing, or it might not be these kids are working and are trafficked in order to work on these fields in the dead hot heat of summer. It could just be something very simple. They knew they were coming, and they had the kids there to try to get the media, which there was a lot of media. So I'm kind of convinced that your theory might be right. Because there was a lot of media there that day. People took shots though at the ICE agents. So we're going to get to that as well, because I want to show you that clip. People took shots at the ICE agents during this operation, and there were a lot of kids there. So yeah, you might be right. You might be right. That's an interesting take. Love it. What's your call-in number? I don't have one. I don't have a call-in number. Maybe eventually we'll do a show where I provide you guys the link to join, and we can chat with each other, and you guys can be a part of it. Let me know in the comment section if that's something you're interested in. But Charlie, I appreciate you being here. As always, you're listening to Conservative Cat. Subscribe to the channel. We are going to get back to today's show. John Fetterman, not turning into a Republican anytime soon, but he did release a tweet that is having the left meltdown, and I want to make sure that I get to that. I'll be right back.
You ever tried to explain your faith to someone who doesn't get it? Like you're speaking a different language? Peter knew that tension. He told believers to live such good lives among the pagans that even if they accused them of doing wrong, they'd see their lives and end up glorifying God. Translation: let your life preach louder than your lips. It's not weakness. That's warfare. You don't always need a microphone. You need integrity. You need consistency. You need to grind with grit and grace when no one's cheering. People are watching how you handle stress, how you treat your wife, how you react when life sucker punches you. They're watching to see if your God is real, because your walk is the evidence. You don't get to control what they say, but you can live in a way that shuts lies down over time. Let your honesty wreck stereotypes. Let your discipline echo louder than their gossip. Let your kindness feel like a gut punch to a world used to selfish men. Because one day, maybe not now, maybe not soon, those same people who laughed at your faith might remember your life when they hit rock bottom. And when they do, they'll know who to call. Live like someone's eternity might depend on it, because it might. You want a pre-workout that speaks for itself? Patriot Pump doesn't need hype, just results. Clean energy, no crash, built for men who lead by example, on the platform or in the shadows. Fuels what matters. Train for legacy.
Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat. I so do appreciate you being here. Subscribe to the channel. Share this out with your friends. Yeah, video call in. Yeah, we'll do it with a video call in. Eventually I'll get there. I'll try to figure that out on my end, and we'll host a video call in where you guys can be a part of the show. If you're interested in that, throw it in the comments section, and I'll probably do that on like a Saturday morning sometime. So let's get to John Fetterman. John Fetterman, he's triggering the left like he always does, and I'm not a big fan of John Fetterman. I get it. He votes for Democrats. Just relax, enjoy the content. Okay. I love when he triggers the libs, and I'm going to talk about it when he triggers the libs because they're melting down over this more so than him saying, hey, we should defend Israel. Hey, we should be supportive of Israel. I think that they're losing their minds over this almost as much as when they lost their minds over John Fetterman defending Israel and coming out in support of Israel. They're almost losing their minds over this just as much. So Fetterman, he put on social media, ICE performs an important job for the country. Any calls to abolish ICE are 100% inappropriate and outrageous. That's what John Fetterman said. So my favorite thing about John Fetterman is that Democrats are too stupid to side with John Fetterman. They won't ever side with John Fetterman, and I don't know why they won't, because John Fetterman, who runs away from Washington, D.C. as much as he can, which I can totally respect. I don't think he's rarely in Washington, D.C. I think that he talks to a lot of normies and a lot of regular people in Pennsylvania, in these blue collar swing, in the blue collar swing state of Pennsylvania. So he's like getting interactions with daily people, like regular people. So he doesn't have the same position as a lot of his colleagues because he's actually talking with people in his districts. Now, is he a total nut? Yeah. But this is why Democrats are in trouble. We're in trouble in 2024. It's because they got Tim Walz in there to white-splain to men why they should vote for Kamala Harris. It's because Kamala Harris hired Tim Walz or chose Tim Walz because, and in this new book, she revealed that she chose Tim Walz over his soda preference. So because he wanted Mountain Dew and the other two candidates for VP chose water, she chose Tim Walz because she thought that that was like really relatable. Okay. They dumb you down into they literally have no idea who you are. So they think that they can chalk you up to just like people who eat Mountain Dew or drink Mountain Dew and eat Doritos. Like that's who they think you are. And, that's why they're in trouble, is because they are so damn unrelatable, the Democrats. And I think that, I'm really beginning to like Fetterman. Yeah, I like him. I like that he is down to earth, like more down to earth than his colleagues, I would say. He doesn't spend a whole lot of time in Washington, D.C. You can tell that by his meetings and stuff. He tries to get out of Washington, D.C. as much as he can. And he spends a lot of time like in his district. And once you start doing that and you stop having these fancy steak dinners like Bernie Sanders does, okay, once you start actually getting to know people in your district, then like you have a totally different view on things. So I think that's what's going on here. He knows that most people like ICE. Most people want an agency like ICE to conduct things like deportations, mass deportations, because of the illegal immigration crisis that we have, then that they're okay with that. That most people, it's like almost like an 80-20 issue, I'd say. A lot of people believe that we should have not open borders and that we should have an agency like ICE to conduct deportations. Like, can we all agree on that? I think that we can all pretty much agree. You're going to have your weirdos who believe like open borders and like your weird libertarians who are like, oh, immigrants have due process rights and like they have the ability to come into the country and move around and everybody. No. Our own citizens, like I said, felons, citizens who are convicted of felonies, they can't even have Second Amendment rights anymore, which I don't necessarily agree with. Because they're citizens of the United States, they should be afforded their Second Amendment rights. But we have that in this country where you can't have a gun if you're a convicted felon. Okay, so why the hell would we allow an illegal immigrant, somebody who's not a citizen of this country, and allow them rights when we deny our citizens rights when they break laws? Okay, they illegally enter the country, they've broken a law, You are not entitled to rights. Okay. When we don't even allow certain rights for our citizenry when they break laws. Okay. So Fetterman, he knows that going all in on illegal immigration is not a good idea for his party. It's not a good idea to win elections. And that really what he's doing with this tweet is he's throwing his Democrat colleagues a bone. I think that he's trying to get them to move over to the side of common sense. But his party would rather side with the people who want people to get shot just to prove that they are resisting Donald Trump. I'm not kidding you. Axios, I reported on this, I believe on Friday. The show's in the archives. There was a House Democrat, not named, but told Axios that Democrats should be willing to go get shot when they're, showing up to these protests and protesting ICE, that they should be willing to get shot for the cause, okay, of resisting Donald Trump. So in other words, these people who shot at ICE agents, and I'm going to get to this video, while they raided a marijuana farm. This is a marijuana field in California. And they were allegedly using child labor. It looks like that they might have been using child labor. Maybe it was bring your kid to work day. Maybe Kevin's right, where they had brought the kids in to try to really make a media spectacle out of this whole thing. I don't know, but people were actually shot at. So take a look at this video. Well, first I'm going to play this one. This one is of this pink-haired liberal. Take a look at the pink-haired liberal. Keep a close eye on her because this is hilarious. She takes her little flag here.
Happening at Wood and Laguna, and you now see the military vehicles advancing despite those protesters trying to make a stance and trying to stop the military vehicle from continuing on. And there's cameras rolling, cell phone cameras rolling. And this group of people are really trying to get this military vehicle to stop, and it doesn't appear that.
Not. Okay, I can't stand ABC. Like, okay, what is your least favorite mainstream media outlet? I would say any NBC or ABC affiliate, like any local ABC affiliate. And I'm going to get to another video here where you're just going to want to pull out your hair because they wouldn't even say that the guy was taking shots at the ICE agents. He pulled out a gun and started popping people, like very evident, like very clear on video, and they wouldn't even say it. So let's look at this. I mean, ABC says they're trying to stop this vehicle. They're not trying to stop anything. They've got their cameras out. They're poking the vehicle with a flagpole. This is nothing. This is just like such a weak protest. Like, honestly, I mean, shame on usually leftist protests are pretty fiery. The leftists who are out there, they'll take Molotov cocktails and throw them into cars, or they'll take rocks and start throwing them at windshields. This is like they're poking the vehicle,
push forward,
and they're flipping. Oh, this guy's flipping them off.
People are moving away from in front of that military vehicle, which is a good thing. We don't want to see anyone get hurt. But again, you see this grouping of military vehicles advancing toward the federal agents further down on the street.
I don't know. This is just really entertaining to watch. She's taking a flagpole and she's poking it into the tires, and they're flipping them off, and they're filming themselves.
And now we see that there are some.
This is for social media clout. They're not doing anything. Like, this is such a weak protest.
Water or something else being thrown at some of the military vehicles driving by the trucks. The protesters very clearly upset by what they're seeing, trying to intervene on behalf of the people who may be detained at some point here.
Intervene on behalf. They are not intervening on behalf of the people who are being detained, folks, because if these people were serious about helping the people who may be detained, if they were serious about it, they'd be like, yes, please detain them, because it appears that a drug cartel may be trafficking children and using them for labor. Okay, there's children, whatever company this is, it's not a good company because they're probably paying them way below wages, like average wages. They're exploiting their work as illegal immigrants. Let's take the children aspect out of it. Although there was, I think it was 8 unaccompanied minors. Is a report that I'm finding now. 8 unaccompanied minors who were detained during this immigration raid at this marijuana farm. But if you were serious about helping these people, you'd want them to go back to their country, because right now with this company or whoever is operating this marijuana farm, they're obviously not in it for those people, because they're exploiting their labor, their slave labor. And then on top of that, they are allegedly using child labor or having children around these marijuana fields, which is a industry reserved for people over 21. Let's get to another clip. This one is where he actually takes shots. So there's a protester appears to fire a weapon. And when I say appears, he is firing a weapon. Looks like he's firing a weapon. And just the way ABC kind of like reports this cracked me up this morning. Take a look.
Take a look at this video right here. It appears a protester fired some kind of gun at federal agents. This happened this.
Some kind of gun at federal agents. It appears he fired a gun at federal agents. Like a blind person could see that this is a gun.
This afternoon, it was a really chaotic scene at the time. A lot of smoke was being launched at the protesters, and again,
goes back,
it appears
reloads.
the protester fired back with that weapon.
He goes back
looks
around.
like he fired at least a couple of times. We have not heard about any agents being hurt.
Like, and no agents hurt, so that's a good thing. That's a really good thing. And like I said, reports suggest that 8 unaccompanied minors were found working on this weed farm, all illegal aliens. These unaccompanied minors were not citizens, and everybody they detained were illegals. And Gavin is right. There is a huge, horrible miscarriage of the rule of law here. But it's not the ICE agents who are just executing their duties and their job and deporting illegal immigrants. That's not the miscarriage of the rule of law. I think that the miscarriage of the rule of law here is that California is willingly ignoring immigration violations. Okay, you've got illegal immigrants working. This is a federal law. You've got California completely, blatantly ignoring immigration violations, possibly child labor laws here, and basic human decency, where we are supposed to protect our children from working in drug fields. Okay, let's get to some of your comments here. Legalizing these drugs doesn't solve any problems or crime. It just creates more problems. I agree. Legalizing cannabis just creates all kinds of problems. And I told you, here in the state of Illinois and at a federal level, you've even got like Republicans who are going after now like these Delta 8 dealers and these Delta 9 or whatever, these THC cannabinoid type folk. And I don't like them either. I think that, all of it is trash. We should have never legalized it. But now what they're trying to do is facilitate a non-free market, okay, where they're trying to be at the side of big marijuana, and now they're not allowing the space to actually be a free market, which I could have called, but we've seen all kinds of things, how marijuana isn't good for children. I think 1 out of every 3 people wind up severely addicted to marijuana. And I mean, things like memory loss are associated with marijuana abuse. So yeah, this isn't a good thing. And legalizing these drugs just, they never create solutions or solve problems. They just create more problems. Yeah, and they'll say, oh, the taxes from this are going to get our state out of trouble, right? That's how Illinois pitched it, the legalization of marijuana. Oh, the taxes, it's like 0.01%, like that, gambling and tobacco sales, I think. I don't know. It's like a fraction of a percent of our overall revenue that we get in the state of Illinois. So it's like not even, and you would think that it'd be way more, because I know that there's gambling. Like I can't throw a rock without hitting one of these gambling casino type looking places. And you would think that it'd be a lot more revenue, because everybody and their mom knows somebody who gambles or smokes pot. And You'd think it'd be way more, but it's actually not. Like the juice isn't worth the squeeze. California is full of cartel in the hills, especially Northern California, stealing water from legitimate ranchers to grow marijuana. Wow. Yeah. Well, and I pulled that NPR article, the 2019 one, that said that like 95% of the cannabis that grows in the state of California, this was a guy, he has like a CROP is the acronym. It's called Cannabis Removal on Public Lands Project. He said we estimate that 95% or more of the grows on public lands are controlled by foreign drug cartel operations. That's Rich McIntyre, who directs CROP. And yeah, I mean, the nefarious drug market didn't go away. It probably just made it easier for these people to, obtain state licenses possibly and operate under the radar and not be looked at under a microscope for their nefarious activity. It just probably made it easier for these drug cartels to sell marijuana on the black market. That was a pitch here in the state of Illinois. Oh, it's going to, get rid of the black market drugs. And yeah, it just wound up making it worse. So to be very clear, this wasn't a strawberry farm. You might hear that today in the mainstream news. Not a strawberry farm. We saw a very dark side of illegal immigration that Democrats have actively continued to defend. And they continue to lie about it. This is a very dark side of illegal immigration where you have children possibly working on a marijuana farm and exploiting, illegal immigrant workers and not paying them fair wages. They aren't picking strawberries, okay? They're picking cannabis in the dead hot of summer. And it's just an actively dishonest narrative that they keep pushing and widely reporting. That these are strawberries and, we need our illegal immigrants to pick our fruit juice and whatever. This is like slave labor, okay, what they're doing. And it's not compassionate to allow this to go on. It's not compassionate to allow children to work in these fields, whether it is strawberries or if it's cannabis, okay? Child labor is something, it's bipartisan, okay? Human labor and exploiting human labor, slavery, is not a partisan issue. Okay, this is a bipartisan issue, and we should all be on the side of making sure these people go back home and aren't exploited on these farms, food processing plants, wherever, these corporations that they're working in, these H-1B visas, even like legal immigrants are being exploited through things like the H-1B visa system, which I've talked about. So yeah, really sad stuff. But anyway, John Fetterman, I'm glad that he's speaking out and saying, hey, they have they perform necessary services for the citizens. He, threw this out on X. And I don't know. I would love to see, Fetterman change over to the Republican Party. I don't think that's going to happen. But, he's trying to throw his party a bone. He's trying to say, hey, guys, this is not a winning issue. Going all in on illegal immigration is not a winning issue. We need to stand up for common sense, and we need to stand up for the common man who truly wants to see these people released from slave labor. All right, you guys have the best a good rest of your day today. Tomorrow the show is going to be 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. I appreciate you being here. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Bye-bye. Love you.